Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Thought Company channel of today's episode of Ask Reddit. Question is, what language do you think in? Depends on what language I'm immersed in at the moment. If I'm having Spanish conversations, my brain just flips solely to Spanish and will be like that until I'm back speaking English. But I tend to curse in Spanish no matter what's in my own head. Same here. But the languages you mentioned reversed, especially the cursing part. It's controversial, says we need a universal profanity language. Uh, Marco says, trust me, cursing in Italian with the correct tone of voice is incredible. Uh, Finster with numbers says, I speak both German and English, but I tend to curse in English. Just has more of an impact, in my opinion. Let's bring back Latin to use and accidentally summon demons. Come on, we're only one day into 2021. It's not ruining it yet. Finnish has a nice variety of swear words and sounds angry, probably most among foreigners. Why it's superior to other languages, opinions, may you ask? Let me break it down to you. German, you need to understand what is said. If you don't, then you cannot tell if someone's cursing or telling what time it is. Dutch could be profanity. You could be clearing something nasty from your throat. Dangerous times of the vibe. Italian, anything sounds like you're confessing your love. Yeah, it depends on what language I'm immersed in. Strangely, I have no problem switching between any two out of my first three languages. But as soon as I have to switch between three or more languages within minutes, my mouth has a meltdown and I sound like Siri on acid. I'm pretty I'm perfectly able to understand my own language salad within my head, but nobody else is able to understand this weird mix of European languages that comes out of my mouth. Cussing in Spanish is much more expressive somehow. I'm a native English speaker with very limited ability to speak Spanish, and I still find it very tempting to cuss in Spanish. That's funny, I'm Dutch, and I also think in Dutch when I speak Dutch. But when I speak English, I think in English. But when and if I curse in my head, or even outside my head sometimes, I do it in Dutch, no matter the circumstances. Same, I curse in my native language for some reason I cannot help. To explain it, I talk to babies and animals in my native language. Also, counting in my head is done in my native language as well. I do simple calculations in Irish. I'm not a great Irish speaker and I rarely use language, but I learned counting and sums, etc. in an Irish speaking primary school. I learned grammar concepts during French class, so some terms I only understand the French names for things. It's the French name for everything. As I recall, something like this was used to help ferret out spies because they invariably flipped to their native math language when doing calculations, and there were differences in the way they did things. When counting on your fingers, Americans start with the pointer finger. However, Germans, maybe other European countries, start counting one on their thumbs. A former boss of mine was from Lebanon, and she counted like this on her fingers. I noticed living abroad and with lots of different language speakers, nearly everyone goes back to their childhood language when needing to do simple calculations and counting. Yep, easiest way to figure out what someone's first language is. For instance, I've been speaking French for 30 plus years, and I can count un, deux, trois, no problem, but ask me to count quickly or to do some fast multiplication in my head, and that's going to be no from me, dog. Even with my mom, her first language is Spanish. 50 plus years later, she still counts in Spanish. You never really forget your native language, it's just one on the back burner. I'm French, I speak English fluently. By my head, I read 30 and 50 in your comment. I still do simple calculations in Irish, the true purpose of Irish. Forgive my ignorance, but I'm curious what the ratio is like between Irish and Gaelic and English being spoken in Ireland by regular folk outside the Gaeltacht on a day-to-day basis, and if it is trending one way or the other currently, is pretty much non-existent outside of the areas. English, but Spanglish if I'm pissed. It's always a mix of all languages. It depends on the situation. Thinking about lab works and friends English, counting numbers Chinese, Angry Rant Russian. Oh my god, I also count in Chinese. I think mostly in English, but I count numbers in Chinese just because it's so much easier and there are fewer syllables. Is the number system different in Chinese, or is it just that the words are shorter? If the number system is different, would it be possible to port it to English? I think it's because the words are shorter and there's a certain flow in the pronunciation of Chinese numbers that makes simple multiplication easier to do. It also helps when I calculate in Chinese. I can sometimes omit all operators in my head, especially during multiplication. Can't explain why though. Feels natural even though I would never do that in English. Counting numbers in Chinese is especially true, especially when you're dealing with smaller numbers doing quick mental math. There's just something about Chinese numbers that makes them flow really quickly through your head compared to numbers in English. It's a weird combination of my first language and English. Sometimes it's one or the other, but more often it's just a combination of different words that form sentences that kind of make sense. This is me with Spanish. Sometimes, even after 30 years of English, it's bad though, and I might forget a word in English and say it in Spanish instead without thinking. It's very possible main language Dutch, but sometimes a sentence makes more sense. It started in English with Dutch thrown in or the other way around. Sometimes I get confused and I start to stutter because I can't remember the word in my native language, but I know it in English. It depends on what language I was reading or listening or speaking in. If I'm having a conversation in English, I will think in English. If I'm reading in Italian, I will think in Italian. Sometimes I am reading text messages in Spanish, and my husband speaks to me, he only speaks English, and I answer to him in Spanish. It's weird. Having said that, I don't normally think in words, but more like abstract thoughts. I imagine a cloud of feelings and images that paint a picture better than words. Then, when I have to explain the cloud, I can put all of that into words. The texting thing happens to me more often. My mind gets garbled among the languages, and I reply in Spanish. My mother's tongue is German, but most of the time I also think German. But if I speak English a lot, I start thinking in English. English is my first language, but I've had dreams in Finnish sometimes, especially during times of travel in my life, like whenever my grandpa visited or when I traveled to Finland. Alright guys, make sure to subscribe, like this video, comment down below your future ideas for future videos, and we'll see you all soon. Take care guys, take care, and Happy New Year. Happy 2021.